This is James Lupton for Pro Boxing Fans. I'm delighted to be joined today on Zoom with Buddy Mcgirt. Buddy, how are you, sir?
Good, and yourself?
Very good. So I wanted to speak to you today. We're going to go in depth. But first of all, just want to ease you in gently. So I want to get a little prediction from you for the next big fight, Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. Break that down for me. How do you see that going?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I never saw Luke Campbell fight, and I'm not a Ryan Garcia fan.
That's absolutely fair enough. Perfect. We'll move swiftly on in that case then. So, Buddy, your professional career, 73 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw. IBF Junior Welterweight and WBC Welterweight Champion. International Boxing Hall of Fame inductee. A fantastic career to be proud of.
Thank you.
After your fighting days were over, trainer to the likes of Arturo Gatti, Antonio Tarver, James Toney, and currently Sergey Kovalev, plus many more. But let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about your upbringing. Talk to me about your childhood. Was you always athletically inclined? Was you always into all sports?
Yes. When growing up, I played Little League football. But the only problem, and this is true, they always had a trouble getting a helmet to fit my head. so I tried it for a while, but I was very small. I was always small as a kid, And so what I did was one day I happened to be, and there was a gymnasium in my neighborhood called the Brentwood Recreation Center, where they had all different type of stuff for kids, after school. And I used to go there to try to play basketball, but I was too short. And then they had professional boxing at this place, not amateur boxing. And so then I used to go in there and just watch the guys box and spar. And then one day my friend asked the guy, his name was Gene Moore, he says, when are you going to have boxing for kids? And he says, next week, but you got to be 12 years old. And they said, okay. And that next week, which was January 17th, was my 12th birthday. And I started boxing on my 12th birthday. So, but the funny thing is, I was raised Catholic. So that morning I had to go to religion. So it was like it was meant to be, because religion let out at 10:30 and the boxing started at 11. And it was like a 15-minute walk. So I walked from the church, from St. Anne's Church to the recreation center, and joined on my 12th birthday. And the rest is history.
So before that point, was you a boxing fan? Had you sat down and watched it at home? Would you watch the fights at the weekends?
You know what? I wasn't. I'm not going to lie. I was young. I was 10, 11. I had a cousin who boxed amateur in New Jersey. And, but I never really paid boxing any mind. Like back then, everything was Muhammad Ali. So, that's all it was. So if Muhammad Ali lost, everybody in my house, except my mom, was upset. You know what I mean? But I never really thought about, becoming a boxer until that day. When I walked into the gym and joined, I said, this is it for me. This is my calling. And then the very next day, I wanted to be a trainer for some reason. The very next day, I wanted to be a trainer.
You say it was your 12th birthday, you went to the gym. What do you remember of that day? Do you remember, did you punch the bags the first day? Was it just basic?
The first day, when we got in, they made us all line up in the ring and jab. He taught us the left jab. Then we had the jab and step across the ring. You know what I mean? And so, you jab, step, jab, step, jab, step, jab, step. And then the next thing we had to do was hit the heavy bag. He taught us how to hit the heavy bag. And my neighbor had went down later that day to join. His name was Johnny, a guy I grew up with since I was 5 years old. And he came back and he goes, buddy, all that guy did was talk about you after you left. That's saying you weren't natural. You know what I mean? That always stuck in my head,
How did that make you feel when you heard that feedback that you was a natural at it, from the coaches?
It made me feel good. It gave me a boost of confidence that I would say that really, really changed my life. Believe it or not, at that age, I'm like, this man, out of all the kids there, talked about me. You know, and I had my first amateur fight a month later, February 21st, 1976.
Just before I touch on your amateur days, you mentioned earlier
It,
the day after
my
that.
the beginning of my amateur career, how can I put it, wasn't really the best. You know what I mean? I had 63 amateur fights, and it's crazy. I had 54 wins, 8 losses, and my first amateur fight was a draw. It's funny. My first pro fight was a draw. My first amateur fight was a draw. And I fought a kid named Ricky Randazzo from Center Reach, Long Island. I'll never forget. You know, and uh, when I had my first amateur fight, I walked home with my hand wraps on. You know, they put the gauze on me, and I walked home. My friends, my little neighbor, childhood friends were there, and I walked home, and it was like the greatest feeling in the world.
You mentioned the second day you was in the gym, you knew you wanted to be a trainer. After the first day, you've had that confidence boost. They've told you you're a natural. Why was it the training role that interested you so much?
The thought of outsmarting another person, teaching someone to outsmart the next person, to me was like, I love doing things with the mind, you know what I mean? But I don't play chess. It's not something because it takes too long. Checkers, I'm great at checkers. I'll kill you in checkers. But I just thought the teaching someone to outsmart another person. I'm not just going to say man, another person in something. To me, it wasn't about beating them up or knocking them out, but outsmarting them. You know, I've always loved using my brain. That's part of why I got such a big ass head. But that was always my thing growing up. Was always outsmarting. You know, if we played like football in the field with a bunch of friends, I'd always try to figure out how can I make this play without smarting these guys instead of trying to run over them.
Did you ever, throughout your amateur and pro career, feel like you were just waiting for it to be over to be a trainer?
What I used to do when I turned pro, I used to go back in between fights and work with a lot of amateur fighters. I'd be in the gym training them, teaching them what I was being taught. And I used to always read boxing books when I was in junior high, elementary. I mean, I started in elementary, but mainly in junior high school, if you saw me with a book, it was a boxing book. And the librarian used to try to get them from me. But a funny story, you know, we had the public library in town, and there was a book. It was called The Heavyweight Champions. I'll never forget. And I read the book, and they had great pictures. So I used to take it out once every 2 weeks. Then I started ripping pictures out of the book and hanging them up on my wall. Returned the book. So after about, I would say 3 weeks, I go in to get the book. I can't find it. So the librarian said, "Come here." I see her. She pulled the book from under the desk. She goes, "Are you looking for this?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Take it home, keep it." So I said, "Why?" She says, "You ripped out half the damn pages." She says, "So." She said, "Just take the book and keep it." She says, "I've always wondered why you kept getting that same book every week and a half." And she goes, "I looked in it and I saw the pictures out of the fighters." She goes, "So take it and don't worry about it." And I took it home and plastered my wall with all the pictures.
Now, your professional debut, you mentioned earlier, it was a draw, March 2nd, 1982, against Lamont Hescoach. Talk to me about that fight. How did you feel after drawing?
I felt like I conquered the world because they paid me $200. So I felt like I conquered. I was in high school, you know. I went to school that day, and after school, my manager picked me up, and we drove to New Jersey and fought. I took the fight on like 5 days' notice. They called me on a Thursday. The fight was on that Tuesday.
So you mentioned you felt like you conquered the world. Was that just from being in the ring, from having a pro
Yeah,
fight, from earning the money?
just having a. I mean, when I turned pro, I thought that at that point in time that was the changing of my life. Because I'm like, damn, I'm a professional boxer. I'll be rich overnight. Little did I know.
Just touch on it. So how much did that mean to you to be a professional boxer?
I meant everything because it was a chance for me to make something of myself, to do something with my life. I was a senior in high school. The girlfriend was pregnant. You know what I mean? So I was supposed to have went to college, but I couldn't go to college with a pregnant girlfriend to take care of her. Um, so I just think that everything happens for a reason. And my teacher, one of my English teachers, was very upset with me because I didn't go to college. But I'm like, I got a kid on the way. And he's like, why, James? I said, what do you want me to do? Nothing I can do now. It's too late. And so I just thought, okay, my first fight, I got $200. My second fight, I got $675. And that was the week before my prom. So I just knew that, hey, I am the man. I am going to be rich overnight. But it not even saying being rich, it put me on the path of becoming I felt at that time to becoming a world champion, accomplishing my goals that I set out to do at the age of 12 when people told me that I couldn't do it. I was too small. I was wasting my time. I mean, and this is from family. This ain't even from friends. This is family telling me, you're too small. You're never going to make it. It's a tough business. You're never going to be successful. And that just drove me to say, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong.
So to become a professional boxer, was that a dream or was that the only opportunity you had at the time?
Both. Because as I got older, I got like 14, 15, and reading the boxing magazines and reading about all the old fighters and just wanting to be like them. I wanted to be like the old fighters. I see them like after fights, they had on suits, and they might have a scar or two or stitches, but they were champion. And looking at the smiles on their faces in that picture is like, yo, I can live that. I can be there. And it's funny. I had a picture on my wall of Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezra Charles. And Jersey Joe Walcott was always very muscular. So I would always do a lot of push-ups because I wanted to be muscular like Jersey Joe Walcott. And believe it or not, a year later at an amateur fight, I met him. Then when I turned professional, he happened to be good friends with my manager, and I became very good friends with him. He used to come watch me train like twice a week when I turned pro. So it's like, damn. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's crazy, man. When you sit back and think about it. I had this picture of him and Ezra Charles. I can still envision it right now. They fought with Ben Lee gloves. I never forget. That's how. This is back in 1977. I'm talking when I had got the picture, and I met him in 1977. I met him, and a friend of mine said, "Buddy, his real name was Arnold Raymond Cream." And I went home and looked it up. I was like, "Holy shit, he's telling the truth." And then when I turned pro, I was at my manager's tailor shop, and who walks in? Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, and it was just like, I was like, wow. So I was in heaven, and then I'm saying to myself, I can make this dream come true. I just got to work hard at it. It was meant for me. I'm meeting this guy who I've admired since I was 12, 13 years old. I met him when I was 13. He gave me an autograph. I lost it, of course. Unfortunately, I lost it. But just to meet a former heavyweight champion at that age, I was 13 years old, boxing a year, and bam, I meet a guy at a boxing show who was heavyweight champion of the world, who I fought Joe Louis, Ezra Charles, and then that really made me get into the boxing books really heavy.
Absolutely, and I will come on to Jersey Joe Walcott in a bit more in depth shortly. But first of all, you mentioned your pro debut. 20 days later, you had your first win. You beat Michael Palms. You actually fought him twice in a row. Your second and third fight was with him, and you stopped him twice. How did it feel to get your first win?
It felt great to get my first win.
I've lost your audio. One sec.
It felt great. But when I had my first win, like I say, my girlfriend was pregnant, and it was a week before my high school prom, but shit was getting rough at that time, dealing with a pregnant girlfriend, getting ready to graduate high school, and her parents kicked her out. So now I had to find a place for her to live. I'm like, yeah, I don't have the money. So it was really, really stressful. My life outside of the ring. You know what I mean? And I was like, I got to get a fight. I got to make money. And I just at that point, I'm 18. I'm thinking $1,000 will go a long ways. But then I said to myself, shit, buddy, the $600 didn't last, and your kid's not even here yet. But my mom used to always make me take some of that money and go buy stuff, even though the baby wasn't born. She goes, you got to be ready for this, bud. So she make me go out and buy Pampers, milk, clothes. She goes, because one day you might not have a fight for a while, and you might need this. So I used to stock up on stuff, you know. But that was the really growing period of my life, because I had to make so many changes in my life. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't easy. You know, I used to travel 3 hours just to get to the gym, trained in 3 hours back home. And then I was, you know, like I say, I was a senior in high school. So I would catch a train at 12 o'clock. I should catch a 12:27 train. And I would get home 8:30 every night, do my homework, get up at 5, do road work, and be in school by 7:30. So I did this my senior year from when I turned pro in March, April, May, June, July, open May for 3 months. But for 6 years, I made that 6-hour trek every day, rain, sleet, or snow. You know, and there was days that I would have to take my son. You know, I was a single parent, so there was days my mother and my sister couldn't watch my son. And he was a year old, and I'd be on the train with him, on the subway with him, walking down the street. I mean, you know, so it wasn't easy, but it was a great learning experience for me. That's why today, when you get these fighters that you say, look, you got a half-hour drive, they're like, half hour? I don't want to drive a half hour. I'm like, man, I was number one in the world. I used to travel altogether 6 hours. And that's if the trains ran on time. Because in the summertime, it'd be too hot sometimes. There's fire on the tracks. I used to go to Manhattan. And then when I got to Manhattan, I had to take a PATH train to Jersey. And then once I got to Jersey, I had a 1.5-mile walk to the gym. So I'm doing this every day, 6 days a week, winter, summer, spring, fall. I mean, blizzards, you know, heat waves, trainer didn't care. I had to be at that gym. There was no excuses. I mean, no excuses. And I believe that helped make me become the person that I am now. That's why when I get these guys that don't want to work hard or don't want to sacrifice, I really don't want to mess with them.
I was going to ask you, does that, excuse me, does that influence your decision on who you train based on their work ethic and their commitment and the sacrifices they make because of what you went through?
Yes. I look at that because my trainer was a very strict he was an old Italian man named Dominic Amoroso. Very, very stern. And I had a respectful type of fear for him. You know what I mean? Like, I respected him. I feared him, but not fear like fear of just a fear of just out of respect, you know? So there was days like, you know, you're 18, it's summertime, everybody's hanging out. There was days I didn't want to go to the gym. I'm like, yeah, I want to go hang out. But I said, man, if I don't go to the gym, I got to hear his mouth. And I get on that train, make that trek. There'd be days it'd be raining. Shit, I got to make this long ass journey. But I had to do it. And there'd be days when I got to the PATH station in Jersey, I'd come out, walk into the gym. Sometimes he'd be there waiting for me if it was raining. And sometimes he wouldn't be. He'd be at the gym waiting for me. I think it was a test to see how bad I wanted it. But I was determined, man. At that point, I'm like, yo, I've been doing this like 3 or 4 years now. Something's got to give, you know? And I just kept grinding, man. I just kept grinding. And, you know, there was days, like I say, I would have my son. I never forget one day he had diarrhea, man, and we were on the train. I was like, oh, my God. I was like, shh. There's nothing I could do. I had to change his pamper on the train. Everybody's looking at me like, that shit stinks, man. You know what I mean? I got a stroller, I got a baby bag, you know what I mean? And when I get to the PATH station, it's like the subway, so you got to lift the stroller up. Oh, man, believe me, it wasn't easy.
I want to take you back to December 1985. You fought Sugar Boy Nando. You won the BBC Continental Americas title. That was your first professional title. How did it feel to win a belt?
It felt great, but I didn't even get a belt. They didn't give me a belt. I didn't get a belt. It was in Miami, and it was a great week in Miami. It was a great experience. I was at the Fifth Street gym where Muhammad Ali used to train. So that's where we trained at. So walking up the stairs to the gym, I was like, damn, Muhammad Ali walked these stairs. It was shit like that would go through my mind that would just give me more inspiration. You know what I mean? So I'm at a gym where Muhammad Ali trained. You know what I mean? And so not too many people today can say that. There's a lot of, you know what I mean? Not too many fighters today can say, yo, I trained in it. Like they have a new Fifth Street gym, but it's nothing like the original. You know what I mean? There was a shoe shine guy there that used to shine shoes. It was unbelievable, man. He was unbelievable. And he used to run the gym. And it was just an experience. Winning that title was great. I never received the belt.
Although you didn't receive the belt, did you feel like a champion?
Yeah. It was it was a fight that my brother had died 2 months prior. So that gave me a lot of inspiration. And then winning that, coming home a champion. But not without a belt. I didn't think about it at the time. I mean, I didn't get a belt, which was okay. Just when I picked up the paper, it said champion. But my friends were like, yo, but where's the belt? Like, I didn't get one.
Did your mentality change at all, becoming a champion?
Mentally?
Yeah.
Yes. Because listen, look, man, I believe that, everybody has a story. Everybody goes through a lot of things, man. And I think that whatever journey we go through helps prepare us for later on in life. You know what I mean? And the journey, listen, I can complain, but I can't complain because I was able to see and learn a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have saw and learned if it wasn't for boxing. You know what I mean? So, let's think back to all the times when I struggled. I mean, there was one point in 1984, I didn't get a fight for like 7 months. You know what I mean? But it happens. It's part of the game. But I was in the gym every day still. They said we might fight next week. You might fight in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? That's when they was having Tuesday night fights in Atlantic City. They can play next week, 2 weeks. This went on for like 6, 7 months. Nothing. But I was still on that train every day going to the gym.
You mentioned about you learned a lot becoming a champion. You learned a lot of lessons through boxing. July 86, your first pro loss, Frankie Warren. What did you learn from that?
That you can't win every fight the same way. You know what I mean? I was bowling over everybody, but then I met a guy who was trying to bowl over me. And I couldn't. It took me 7 rounds to adapt. So then that's when I said I got to learn how to make adjustments in a fight. So the funny thing is, after the fight, everybody was upset. Everybody was mad. I wasn't. I walked from the arena to the hotel. It was like about a mile walk, mile and a half walk. It was like 100 degrees outside. And I walked to my hotel. And when I got to the hotel, my manager was waiting for me. He was like, what are you doing, kid? Why you? I said, listen, do me a favor. He's like, what? I said, get me a fight. He's like, what? I said, get me a fight. He said, kid, I said, just get a fight, man. Just get a fight. I'm going to go home, rest a week, get a fight. And everybody around me is looking at me like, you just lost. I'm like, exactly. I'm going to put it behind me and move on. And my next fight was against Sal Manby, where I was an underdog. 2 months later, July, before 2 months later, in September. So I just, to me, that was the best thing that happened to me, that loss. And then that little walk I took by myself made me understand that, yo, buddy, you got to make adjustments. You got to learn how to make adjustments. And I started watching films of the old fighters and said, okay, this is how you make adjustments. This is how you do this. And I pretty much got it all together, man, and put it all together in that Sal Manby fight. And once I beat him, I said, I'm gonna be champ. And then I wound up getting the rematch with Frankie Warren.
Well, that's it. Like you said, you fought Sal Manby. You was the underdog. It's not an easy fight to take in your next fight, but you did have a winning streak, 10 fights in a row, including winning the IBF world title against Frankie Warren. How sweet was it to get a revenge with the world title on the line?
The greatest thing in the world, man. It's funny is that after the loss, Georgie Benton, God bless him, who trained Frankie Warren, told me what I did wrong. And I said, I thank you, George. So when I got the rematch, I saw Georgie at the weigh-in. I say, George, you remember the mistakes you told me I made? He goes, yeah. I said, I corrected them. And he just started laughing. He goes, you got me, buddy. I said, I correct them. You're going to see Sunday afternoon. And we locked horns that February 14th.
That's it. And that was, like I say, the world title winning fight. In your second defence, you come across your second loss, Mcgirt Taylor. But I believe you was on medication, you had tendonitis. Talk about that situation.
I was on medication for an inner ear infection. I had an ear infection, and I shouldn't have never taken the fight, but I always felt that a champion should fight no matter what. I was young, you know what I mean? Thinking that, hey, you know what I mean? This is what champions do. Champions fight no matter what. And after the fight, I learned this is what champions pull out of fights. So, but hey, listen, man, it was all a learning experience.
Going through that experience, would you now ensure your fighters that you train would not go through that?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
After going through that experience yourself, would you now ensure that your fighters that you train would not go through that themselves?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Because today, unfortunately, if you lose a fight, if you lose bad, they just totally write you off. I mean, it's not like back in the day when, they give you a second chance at it. Yeah, you lose a fight. And if you lose badly, they write you off, man.
Absolutely. Back to your fighting career. After Mcgirt Taylor lost, 21 wins, WBC title you claimed as well before meeting Pernell Whitaker in March '93, the first fight. Talk to me about Pernell Whitaker and facing him. Last time we spoke, you mentioned that you felt that you'd won that fight.
Well, it wasn't really Pernell that I was worried about. It was his trainer, Georgie, man. Georgie was a master. He's the only trainer that I've ever worried about going against as a fighter. It wasn't the fighter. I didn't give a shit. I was never worried about the fighter. Because I knew that it wasn't a fight out there that could outsmart me. But I knew Georgie he was phenomenal, man. He was, to me, one of the greatest trainers. The man was so smart, man, and his boxing IQ was unbelievable. And out of my 6 losses, 4 are to Georgie Benton trained fighters. But me and him were great friends, though. I gotta honestly say. But anywho, back to the Pernell thing. The first fight I'd have been happy with a draw, but it is what it is. The second fight, he beat the hell out of me. You know what I mean? So, but at that point when we had the rematch, I didn't want to fight anymore. The thrill was gone. The thrill was gone, but I said, I'm a fighter. I fought my way because they had told me that I'll never come back after that surgery. And within a year, I came back and was fighting for the championship again. And I did what they said I couldn't do. So with that, and then knowing that my manager sold me out the first fight, all just hit me, boom, after my fight with Pat Coleman. And when they said you got the rematch with Whitaker, I started crying. And my wife's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm like, yo, I did it. She's like, what? I said, they said I couldn't do it. I'm back. I got the championship fight. I said, but I don't want to fight anymore. I just flat out told her right there in the dressing room, I don't want to fight no more.
What did
So, and she said, okay, so what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go home and think about it. I went home and I said, yo, babe, I got to take this fight. And she goes, why? I said, you know what I mean? They're going to think something's wrong. I got to take it. She goes, bud, listen, if the fire's gone, it's gone. You can't relight that fire. And I tried, but she was right. You know what I mean? She goes, all the years that I've known you, you've always gave it 100%. She goes, now you're not giving it 100%. You know, I was cutting corners in training. She goes, buddy, stop. She goes, you're going to get hurt if you don't stop. I mean, but of course, you know, I was being stubborn.
I mean, like you said, you did continue. You lost your last fight. It was your 80th pro fight. Why continue? Was it just for paydays?
Yeah, and not knowing what I was going to do with my life afterwards, man. You know, reality hits, and when it hits hard. You know what I mean? I'm like saying to myself, okay, buddy, what are you going to do with the rest of your life now? And and all the people, it's crazy, all the people that you help over the years, you put food on their table, you money in their pocket, help them get roofs put over their heads, you know? None of these people are around to help you anymore. It's like, okay, where'd they go? You know, you call people up and they say, yo, champ, let me call you right back. That ain't happening. They're not calling you right back. You got a better chance of hitting the moon with a BB gun. That person is not calling you back. And it was, I got to honestly tell you, it was a hard lesson, hard period. Because I couldn't believe it. I'm like, yo, I can't believe this, man. As much as I did. And even family. You know what I mean? And that's the crazy part. Even with family, I mean, I'm like, yo, I fucking fed all you motherfuckers, man. You know what I mean? Every job anybody in my family ever got was because of me. You know, your buddy's brother, yeah, okay, here. I even have brothers with different last names. You know what I mean? They have different fathers. But people like your buddy's brother, yeah, and they get the job. Nephews, all family, in-laws. And then when I call and say, I could have been calling to say happy holidays. They thought I was calling for a favor. Motherfuckers wouldn't take my call, man. I was shocked. I was like, yo, damn. Now I know who's in my corner. You know what I mean? So, you know, like they say, you live and learn. And believe me, that taught me like a very valuable lesson, man. And I believe in my heart that, matter of fact, I know, I'm not even gonna say believe, I know that my family, my siblings and all, wanted me to fall flat on my face. You know what I mean? They wanted me to fail because I got to live the life that they dreamed of, but they just didn't have the nuts and guts to keep pursuing that dream. Now, I come from a family full of athletes, come from a family who, my brother was very intelligent, they were in the military and played sports, but they never, ever got over that hump because they had that little fear. You know what I mean? I didn't have that fear. I went for it. You know what I mean? And they were jealous of my lifestyle. But here's the crazy part. I still took care of them. I mean, I still helped them. Their family needed something, their kids, their wives, but I was always there for them. And then when it was over for me, none of them were there for me. So then when I moved to Florida and became a trainer, now they all want to call me up. Hey, champ, how you doing, champ? Nah, can't do nothing for you. You know what I mean? I can't do nothing for you. I never forget, you know, I mean, you guys didn't know if me and my wife, when I moved to Florida, I had maybe like 10 grand in my pocket. That was it. In a family. And I still had to buy furniture when I got to Florida. I had found a place to live, but I'm like, yo, we're going with this 10,000. We're going to Vero Beach. We know one person there. That's it. And my wife's like, what we gonna do? I said, babe, we're gonna be all right. Because I'm away from my family, we're gonna be fine. And when I got there, nobody called. Oh, my mom, the only one that called and checked on me. You know what I mean? Nobody called and checked on me. They would come to Florida and visit their in-laws. Nobody would come see me, which is okay. I'm okay with that. And then when I started training champions, now everybody wants to come to my house now. And it's like, I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. You don't have to come see me now. You didn't come see me for the last 3 years. Now you don't come see me now? Nah, that's okay. And my wife like, oh, buddy, that's your family. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I never forget what they did to me.
Absolutely.
And that's, but when you try to explain to some of these younger guys, they're like, nah, never. Okay, you're going to see. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is, and like I said, that just helped make me become the individual that I am today.
Definitely. I just want to touch on something you mentioned there. You continued fighting because you didn't know what you were going to do next. What happened to the dream of being a trainer at that point? Did you not feel that would happen at that stage?
You know what? I started training guys, but it was tough. It was tough, man, because I was still caught up in fighting. I mean, I'm like, okay, I got to train this guy now, and I could train myself for 4 weeks and make 5 times of what he's paying me. And I said, nah, the hell with that. So I started training guys, and then I tried to make a little comeback, but it didn't work. You know what I mean? Then I was training in Colorado Springs for a fight, and then it just hit me right there. I was running around the lake in Colorado Springs. It just hit me. I stopped. I stopped running, and my friends were like, yo, what's up? I'm like, that's it, man. I'm done. And they're like, what? I said, I'm done. I'm going home. And we went back to the apartment, and they're like, you crazy, man? You got a fight coming up. You can use that $100,000. I said, yeah, I could. I said, but my wife is right. I'm being selfish right now. So I got on the plane. And I got to honestly tell you, this is the longest plane ride of my life, man, because I'm flying home. I got maybe like $400 or $500 in my pocket, and got wife and kids at home waiting on me. And it's like, okay, buddy, what are you going to do now? Then that's when I started really getting into the training, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. You're making money, but it wasn't easy. So, but it was all a learning experience for me. So I thank God that I went through it because it helped prepare me for where I'm at now. Absolutely. I mean, now I know how fighters are. And believe me, they're not like they used to be when I was coming up. So, like they say that, you live and learn, and believe me, I have.
Definitely. Let's go back to your idol, your hero, Jersey Joe Walcott. Just, he used to come and watch you train twice a week, and he'd travel quite a way to come and see you to do that. What are your...
He used to come from Camden, New Jersey, watch you train in Jersey City. His son used to drive him.
What's the best piece of advice, or what's the one thing that sticks out in your mind from Jersey Joe Walcott?
Just, I'm not going to say advice. You didn't got to say advice as far as training and fighting. It was just always like, buddy, you got to stay focused. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Once it's over, it's over. You know what I mean? So always stay on your grind. Never let nobody get you off of what you're doing and pursuing your goal. And he goes, when you become champ, you got to work harder than you were before you became champ. And he was right. He says, when you're the big man, when you're the king of the hill, everyone wants to knock you off. So, and he was right. So, he gave me great advice.
And let's move on to your training role. Byron Mitchell, your first champion you trained, won the WBA super middleweight title together. Talk to me about that feeling. How was it winning a world title as a fighter to a trainer?
We trained 5 days. 5 days for the fight. I get to Las Vegas and Carl King says, hey man, you got a big fight Saturday. I'm like, what are you talking about? I just got here. Who do I got fighting? He goes, I need you to train Byron Mitchell. He's fighting for the world championship. I'm like, what? So we trained from Sunday to Thursday. All we did was mitts. in the health club at Mandalay Bay. That's all we did with Mitch. And he fought Manny Siaka. But when I was holding the mitts, I seen how hard that Byron could punch. I'm like, this fucking guy can punch, man. And in the fight, you know, he was losing. He was losing, and then I had the very next fight. I had a kid, Nate Jones, fighting right after that. And I believe it was the 9th or 10th round, he threw a combination to knock Manny Siaka down. Siaka got up, and then he just stopped throwing punches. And then he got in the clinch in the last round, and he looked at me, because I was walking to the dressing room. I mean, he looked at me, and he gave me a look like, don't leave yet. So I went back and sat down. It was like maybe 20 seconds left in the fight. He threw a hook to the body, hook to the head, knocked Siaka dead. He was out. I couldn't believe it. Then he became champ, and that was a great feeling. And then after that, he went to another trainer.
What for
and
you?
He got beat his next fight.
For you,
Matter of fact, he fought Manny Siaka and got beat in a rematch.
What was a better feeling for you, winning the world title as a fighter or as a trainer?
You know, everybody asks me that question, and I gotta say, I don't know. I really don't, because it's a great feeling when you see someone accomplish their dream. Being an ex-champion, like when I see guys win championships, or when I'm working with guys winning championships, it's like great to see them achieve that goal. And at the same time, you try to explain to them, hey, man, listen, now you got to work harder. You're the king of the hill now. You got to work harder. You want to help see them stay on top. But the problem today is there's no loyalty, man. It just sucks, man. You know, you help these guys, you know, when you work with them, you know, they're doing the fighting, of course, but, you know, you're still working with them. And they get to that point, they become champion, and then they say, okay, coach, I'm going to go get another trainer now. So Lou Duva used to always say, don't fall in love with your fighter, because they'll leave you in a heartbeat. And I didn't want to believe that for a while. But then as time went on, I was like, damn, he was right. Because as a kid, you come up, you read about all these great champions. If they lost, they never left their trainer. They never blamed their trainer. They're just like, all right. And they come back and win. And there's, you know, continued success. Now, if a guy loses, they want to blame the trainer right away. I mean, I respect any fighter today. If they lose, they stay with that trainer and come back and win. I respect that fighter. But a lot of these guys, man, I don't get it, man. It's not the same. I mean, I got to put on my soccer shoes. I got to get to the gym shortly. So it's just, you know, it's just not the same. So coming from years of being loyal to my people and watch when the era I came up in, you know, in my era, if a fighter switched trainers, the new trainer will call the old trainer and say, hey, man, you know, your fighter called me. So they would, and that's what I used to do. If a fighter came to me, I would call his old trainer and say, man, listen, I want you to know that your fighter came to me, you know. And some would be like, all right, buddy, no problem. Some would be like, your buddy don't trust that motherfucker. You know how it is. But like I said, when I was coming up, it didn't happen. If I got lost, all right, cool, I lost. Maybe you lost to a better guy. Maybe it wasn't your night. But you can't blame the trainer. You know what I mean? When you're winning, everything is great. But when you lose, okay, it's his fault. Well, no. I mean, so today it's like, you know, really, to be honest, what to expect.
So it's
If
very
it looks bad, they want to blame the trainer.
It's very interesting you mentioned that. So over here in the UK, a lot of people criticised Anthony Yard for sticking with Tunde Ajayi after the Kovalev fight and more recently the Lyndon Arthur fight.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about the Kovalev Yard fight. Now, we had Ed over here in the UK, and we could see at one point in the corner you'd said to Sergey Kovalev, "You need to show me something or I'm pulling you out." Now, this is an
Right.
extreme Kovalev. How important is it that, one, the trainer's got the fighters back, but like you mentioned there, the loyalty back as well from the fighter?
Because how important? I think it's very important because I think it shows the character of the individual. But in the yard fight, he said to me, "Buddy, I got him. He's tired. Don't stop it." He goes, "He's tired now." You know what I mean? And he was right. He went out the next round and stopped him. So like I said, you very rare to meet fighters like that today. When, like I said, like when Wilder lost, they fired Mark Brillin. Mark saved his life. You know what I mean? If not his life, saved his career. Because, after the second round, he was getting killed. You know what I mean? It is what it is. These guys today, man, it's just, the fight game is just not the same. I love it to death, though. I love it. And I just wish that a lot of these guys which I know is not going to happen, but just have just remain loyal, man, to those who was with you when you were doing those little 4-round fights, 6-round fights, who was there for you. Now you get to the top, you want to change the recipe. And it might not always work out the way you want it, but that's life. That's in anything you do in life. It doesn't always work out the way you plan.
Absolutely.
So that's it, baby, Get ready now. I got to get to the gym. So I appreciate doing this interview. I wish I could continue, but everybody's texting me now, calling me from the gym, wondering where the hell I'm at.
No, buddy, I appreciate your time. We'll continue this. We'll get a part 2 in at some point, I'm sure. But thank you for your time and speaking to pro boxing fans. We appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure, baby. Anytime.